Well, here we are back again. Second week with Melanie. I'm excited.
Hooray.
So, since everybody knows everybody, we're just gonna get right to it, right? Like
why dally around, right?
Why dally around? Why get to it? Except for this part. Please hit the subscribe button. We would be ever so grateful if you did that. Anyway, so I've been thinking a lot lately about daily rituals and do they have value? What if we fall off the wagon? But to start, I want to talk about this concept called sympathetic restoration. So I should have made it a banner, but it won't take about a second.
Oh, we're gonna make a banner right now.
So I am a huge fan of upcycling and furniture recycling. And so it was when I came across this show called The Repair Shop. It's a UK show. They repair people's precious items,
heirlooms.
Heirlooms.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's an amazing show. You can catch one of the seasons in full episodes on YouTube, which is about the only place to get it in the US, unless you use a VPN and lie and say you're in the UK, which is possible. But anyway, as I was watching and paying attention to what they do, people will bring in things that have been through a fire or just very old and show their wear, or maybe, it might be toys that are unsafe to ride anymore. But what they do is they never bring them back to 100% of what they looked like when they were first made. They always do what they call sympathetic restoration, which is they keep the little bumps and the little dings. But if it's leather, they may stabilize the leather and leave the little scars. And they call it sympathetic restoration, not losing the character of the piece, but bringing it to a state where it can last another 50 or 100 or 200 years.
That's an interesting fine line to walk, because you can't push that too far either direction.
Well, no, but people who are experts in their field really know what they're doing.
Yeah, very interesting.
But this is not really about restoring furniture or items. But I was struck by the idea that so many of us who are on any kind of a healing journey want to bring ourselves back to some pure state, right? Want to bring ourselves back to, I don't know, pure soul, whatever words you want to use. When the truth of the matter is that the bumps and the bruises and the scars that we have, right, are part of who we are and part of what makes us unique and part of the human experience. So I was struck that if we work on our healing journeys in a sympathetic way, in other words, compassionate for ourselves, we might be better off and it might be an easier journey. What do you think about that?
So not trying to clean up everything, but get a little closer to center and keep the character of our personalities.
Well, unless the characters are really flawed, but yes. Yes. Keeping.
No, I see where you're going. I see where you're going for.
I mean, maybe even deeper than that is keeping the flavor of the learning experience that we had. In other words, taking the charge out of the experience, taking the trigger out of the experience, but keeping the wisdom.
I was just going to say, it's almost like a scar, right? And I have lots of scars, and it's like, oh, I remember what happened when I got this. XYZ happened. Yeah. So you look at this. So if you have a spiritual scar, you're not going to be triggered or active. I don't like that word triggered. I like activated better, but you're not going to be re-wounded. You look at the scar and you're like, oh, I remember going through that. I remember what I learned. I remember the growth, and then you can kind of be grateful for that. right? And just
Yep.
have a
And
moment of
it
gratitude.
can't be not to repeat it, right?
Right.
This reminds me of a question that was posed to me in psychology class way back in, I think, college. Yeah, I was in college. The question was this: if we had a medication that would heal someone from a mental illness, but it took away their personality or their creativity, would that be worth it? And I'm like, boy, it was back then. That was a tough decision. It's like, this guy is not doing well, but he's like uber creative. Like he's got this crazy, like what do they call them? The savants.
Right.
Yeah.
Look at Robin Williams,
Yeah.
or Jim Carrey,
or perfect example.
Russell Brand.
Yeah. If you could give them something, or there was a medication or something that would, cure them. And back then I was like, yeah, you probably would have to do it. And, the downside was they lose a bit of their edge. And now I'm kind of like, who's to say who's healed and who's not healed?
Well, and you know what? I mean, go a little further back than that. And you know what that was?
Electroshock.
Lobotomy
and electroshock. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, the lobotomy, right?
Right.
Just destroys everything.
Yeah.
Just takes it all away. So I think that maybe if we focused on being a little kinder to ourselves.
Yep.
And sympathetic, I think sympathetic brings up the word sympathy, which is not what anyone's really looking for necessarily, is sympathy. But if we could have compassion for ourselves and our journey and our decisions and our choices and stop beating ourselves up.
Yeah.
And just look at the journey as a whole instead of instead of these little micros and macros of ourselves. I think we'd all just be a lot better off.
Yeah. When you look at yourself for the sympathetic restoration, that what you just said is spot on. I don't think you can look at someone else and bestow that idea on someone else. I think it has to be a decision you make for yourself.
Right.
Because the problem with the example I just gave with the person with the medication is it's basically someone else making the decision for that person.
Right.
And you're imposing that, cure on them. But for me, looking back personally, I can totally see places where I want to keep my edge, if I want to call it that, and not have, I might not be 100% normal, but I want to.
What's the definition of normal?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, it depends on who you ask, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah. And I would hate to, of course, I don't want to see people suffering with mental illness, but but if you gave them something that took away their creativity and their spark and their genius, you're taking away them. So then what do you have left? You have a shell of a human who's miserable again. I mean, they're miserable because they can't be themselves. If you took away Robin Williams' genius comedy and just the amazing person that he was, if you took that away, but he didn't have his mental illness anymore, what would you have? You'd literally have a shell of a man.
Right.
Maybe. Right. I mean, right? Maybe. There's no way to really know that answer.
Yep, that's a good point.
But I'm with you. Sure. I'm with you. I'm not. Yeah. I am with you. But I just wonder. I wonder. I mean, we can look at him, for a moment, because can you imagine how exhausting it must have been to be in his head?
Mm-hmm.
All those people and all those voices and all those thoughts and all, I mean,
yeah.
So would somebody who's offered that as an option might just be craving some rest?
Yeah.
And that's the problem, I think, too, because especially, with mental illness, it's like when a person is on the inside looking out, they can't really, they're comfortable where they are. They want to stay there, right? I'm struck by, like bipolar. They don't really see that there's anything wrong with them. And so they're never going to actually make a choice.
And again, unless they are harming themselves or harming others,
but they could be.
They could be, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, I think things need to be done. But if they're just quirky or
quirky is a different story, but bipolar is not quirky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it depends on your level. Yeah.
I wonder if there's a difference between if someone is ego driven or spirit driven. I mean, I know we all live in both camps, but someone who's truly on a spiritual path and realizes they have some difficulties, I wonder if there's a different element of that. I mean, a different discussion that you have, as opposed to someone who's completely in the ego mind and is having, trouble relating to others and potentially harming family members.
No. I mean, you know what? There's no one answer to that either, because I know somebody who was on a very spiritual seeking journey who just could no longer manage.
Okay.
And removed herself from the planet. So
okay. Yeah.
I don't think there's I think we're getting really off topic here when we're talking about mental illness itself, and it probably something we shouldn't be talking about anyway, but because none of us are qualified, right?
True.
I don't think. But I'm talking about healing ourselves from trauma or perceived trauma, from difficulties in our lives, from decisions we've made, and the idea of just being sympathetic towards ourselves, offering ourselves compassion as we move through this journey. And I heard something today, somebody on a TV show, a talk show guy, who was a little bit, he's a little bit large, I guess. I don't know. And somebody said, well, when you first started out, you were like this. And now he wrote a book. Reading this book, you're a completely different person. And he said, well, why wouldn't I be? I'm 45 years old. That was 25 years ago. If you're not learning
and growing,
then you're not doing it right. So maybe there's that. Maybe we can let go of the hyper focus on heal this. Just show ourselves some compassion and move forward.
Yep. And know that you're going to play the long game.
Yeah.
Right.
And give ourselves a pat on the back for the growth that we have done. And again, referring back to those spiritual or whatever scars that we might get. I think it's hard, or it's easy to forget what we've been through and how much growth we've had. And when we see those scars, we can look back and say, wow, I've really done a work. Go me. Like, pat yourself on the back. Yep. I am not the same woman I was a year ago, 5 years ago, and certainly not 10 or 20 years ago.
Me too.
I am.
Right?
Me too. Like night and day. Yeah.
That just is what it is. So there we go. That just is what it is. So now let's move on to the idea of daily rituals and affirmations, and do they have value? But this is what I want to know. What you think. Is beginning a spiritual journey, like, for example, myself, I started out in energy work. I did the work to become an energy master. I had rituals and practices and did, a lot of energy work. Is it a red pill, blue pill situation?
Ooh, there's a good question.
Is it if you step on that path, you're going to have to stick with that path? Because if you fall off of that path, life is going to be more difficult. Or you just never get on the path. So, and I just want to say what I'm thinking, and then I'll let you all have it. There are people who are very successful, who don't have manifesting processes, practices, don't have spiritual practices. They're basically human evil people, right? But they can manifest basically whatever they want, right? Then there are those who understand the concept of manifesting, but have limiting beliefs, fears, and what have you, and they are working on them and stepping onto that spiritual path. So if that person who just did anything to get what they wanted stepped on to some kind of a spiritual path with a spiritual practice, could they ever go back to the way that they were, or is that all over now? Would they be successful if they just went back to it?
Clarification. So this hypothetical person who's in clearly a position of power is able to use the word manifest, but would it be closer to say demand? Are they able to basically demand whatever they want?
Well, manifesting is just deciding what you want and getting it. That's all manifesting is.
True.
So you're going for semantics, which is what you do.
It's manifesting. Predictable.
Yes.
Isn't that great?
Yes.
I guess my point is, though, if someone can demand whatever they want from subordinates, that is a completely different
I'm not. It's not just subordinates. It's just some horrible people.
Well, I'll take that word out. If they can force to happen whatever they want to have happen, that's a different.
Or maybe they don't. Maybe they just get lucky, or maybe they inherit, or maybe like
I'm having trouble with
how
that.
How they get it is irrelevant. The fact that they're not on any kind of a spiritual path that helps them manifest, like many people we know, if they get onto that path, what happens to all these other things that just fall into their lap? That's what. Do you see what I'm going?
I do. I guess this situation just seems pretty hypothetical. It'd be my gut feel that once on the spiritual path, there's going to be a period of relearning. Like, oh, I know how to pull this into my reality, but now I'm pulling it in for good rather than evil. And I think there's a period of relearning there.
Yeah. As far as whether or not they go back, I mean, that goes back to the conversation we had last week about free will. But I don't know. I feel like if someone gets on the spiritual path, they're going to look at it and be like, whoa. Because look at Jim Carrey. He had so much. I'm not saying he was evil or anything, but he had so much success. He was, you know who he is now. And then he discovered spirituality. And now he's like, screw that noise. I'm not going to do that anymore. Now I'm going to stay on this spiritual thing. And he's kind of using his influence to talk about it more and bring it more out into the open. So I think just by nature, once you're kind of on this path, you almost have no choice but to stay on it. And I think that if you decide to get off of it, again with free will, the universe is probably going to kind of smack you around a little.
That's what I think.
What are you doing?
Okay, so that's part A. Now here's part B. Many people having awakenings or whatever you want to call what's happening to people now and coming to the spiritual side, leaving religion or not leaving religion, but deciding they want to walk a more spiritual path. And as example, myself started with energy work. I cannot tell you how many people I come across who I say, are you attuned to any kind of energy work? Yes, Reiki. Yes, this. Yes, that. Was it a part of your practice when you first started? How often did you do it when you first started? Oh, every day. They told me I had to practice, or that, I had to do that for certification. And then that goes away for whatever reason. Life gets in the way, things happen, and you fall off the wagon. does life just get harder? Or does it just get harder for some? Do you see where I'm going with that? Like,
yeah, I got two answers to that. First of all, I kind of view it like sailing, where you're going this way and then tack back this way and tack back this way. It's never a straight path, right? You're always kind of adjusting and readjusting, and the universe might smack you to get back on the path. But it's not that you've fallen off the wagon and well, too late for you. It's just kind of a readjustment. That's comment number one. Comment number two. I've been reading a book and a course by Mark Allen. He's the guy who runs the publishing company that published Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now. And what he was saying is like, I've said this before. He says, all these guys doing a type A personality, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to, get up at 6 and take a cold shower. He says, I'm a type Z. I sleep until noon. And he says, okay. And he got to the point in this little course about manifesting. All right, here's what I did to create my affirmation. I say it probably 3 days a week. I try for 7. I usually get 4 or 5, but it works, right? I'm like, you're my man. You are my man. Because that right there is saying you didn't do your ritual 21 days in a row. You blew it. No, he says you have an affirmation. You do it. If you forget, it's okay. Just do it tomorrow.
And it becomes another religion, right? Because
dogma.
that's what religion is. You have to go to church every Wednesday, every Sunday. You have to go to Friday night Bible study. You have to do da 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 da. And it becomes that if I have to do it, I'm not going to do it. And I think, like everything else, we kind of evolve. And I think the reason why people, when you're first learning a new method, and they say, hey, do this every day, it's to build that muscle, right? That spiritual muscle.
Good point.
Like when I first started, there was, I was taught ground every day, and you do the visualization and you do this and that and that. And it would take me 5-10 minutes, right? I can ground like that now. I can connect, like I'm always connected. I feel like, maybe I'm not, but I feel like I'm always connected. It's not as much of an effort now because I've strengthened that muscle. Do I pull a tarot card every single day? No. Does that mean I'm falling off the wagon and I'm not connected anymore? No. It's just life happens and things evolve and our practices evolve. Rituals, I think, are good. Again, it's like a religion. If you feel like you have to do it, you're not going to want to do it. And it's not a personal thing. It's somebody else's thing, right? It's whoever taught you to do it. It's their thing. It's not your thing. And I think we need to make it personal, and it's our personal journey, and we can't compare ourselves to other people. And again, we have to have compassion on ourselves. I had a horrible day. The kids were crazy. I had a lot of work to do. I didn't get to do my rituals. Does that mean I'm a terrible spiritual person? No. Cool. I'll just pick it up and do it again tomorrow.
Pick it up tomorrow, yeah.
And have compassion with myself and no judgment
I'm
for
struck
myself.
by something that you both are saying. Does that mean I'm a terrible person? No. Does that mean I'm like, I don't quite know how to get to where I'm going with this, but who's judging you, I guess. Right.
Yeah. Well, I think we judge ourselves.
Yes. And that's the only person that's judging you. No one else cares.
And we've been conditioned to do that.
Yeah. Not me, but.
Well, not you, but most of society has been.
Yeah. But I would put out there now, because I want to continue this. I believe there are things we could do every day or every other day or weekly or whatever that would make our lives considerably better.
Yeah.
And so
I think there's
are there things, for me, it's energy balancing. Everybody says, oh, well, I pull a card. No, balance your energy. Well, I focus on my root chakra. No, balance your energy. Okay, so that's that. But are there things like that we should be doing, like when we brush our teeth? We brush our teeth every day. Most of us do anyway. And nobody objects to that. Well, kids do, but you know what I mean?
They don't count.
Like
Yeah,
we really don't object to absorbing that into just a daily part of our day, right? We eat every day, most of us. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think it's all right. Here's best practices. Do them, and then you missed a day. It's okay. Do your best practices tomorrow. And kind of along the same lines of that, if you really want to progress, yes, you do need to do some things every day. If you're okay with going at your own pace, then the compassion and the allowance for some flex in the system makes sense.
I agree with that. I can also agree, and John, probably you can maybe even attest to this a little bit. You can tell when I'm keeping my energy in balance and when I'm not.
Yeah,
you absolutely can.
Yep.
And my life is so hard when I don't.
Funny you should say that. You just reminded me something that I used to do every evening before I went to bed, and I've literally forgotten to do it. And it's the grounding and the energy balancing. And I'm like, damn, that's what's wrong. Okay, thank you, Angie.
Right? like. So I get, and I think the point of this conversation was that, you know, for the listeners to understand, you know, pulling a tarot card for yourself every day or not, I don't want to poo-poo it. I don't want to make it sound insignificant because I know a lot of people really believe in it. But in the grand scheme of things, if you have to choose between pulling a tarot card for yourself and journaling about it, or doing something that maintains energetic balance, I think you need to maintain energetic balance, right? If you have to choose between, I don't know, washing your hair and brushing your teeth, you should brush your teeth, right? To me, it's that fundamental.
Interesting.
Easy for you, John, right? Like that's an easy choice for you.
No hair.
I agree, because to me, when my energy's balanced, when I'm in the flow, when I'm everything, pulling a card just confirms everything that I've already know when I'm hearing.
You guys are advanced gurus here. I'm thinking of someone who's just starting out. That daily card is like my spiritual. It's my message for the day. I think those are pretty important when you begin.
I think that you can become
dependent on it. You give your power
dependent
to it.
on it, right? You give your
all
power
right.
to it.
I'll give you that.
And wait, I got one more. I believe that doing that can interfere with your intuition.
Yeah, I agree.
I view it as the representation of the intuition that I'm learning.
Yeah, but if I've ever been off balance energetically, I'll pull a card and I'm like, I don't know what the hell that means. I don't what? So then I pull more cards for clarification, and then I'm like, now I'm even more confused, and then I just get frustrated and screw it all.
All right.
You know,
I'll give you that example because that happens. You know,
I mean, and I would also add that, you know, it's one thing to wake up in the morning and walk over to your deck, open it up, and just pull out a card.
Yeah.
And an entirely different situation to getting up, coming over to the desk, sitting with your cards, opening the cards, setting the intention to get a clear and powerful message, which I would say is a form of balancing your energy.
Okay. I will 100% give you that one.
Right? I mean,
what's your intention?
I would be interested, since we know that you actually are one that does pull a card every day. I'd be interested if you would try it a couple of times in the next week without doing your
ritual.
Without doing your ritual, without doing your intention setting before you pull the card, and just to see. Now,
interesting. You're trying to make me have a bad day. I can see it.
No, actually,
it's a scientific experiment.
It is rather scientific.
Right. But I am the guinea pig.
I also believe that if you set your intentions long enough, like when I first started doing energy work, when I first started working with people, I drummed it into when I set my intentions, when I created my containers, that the work be comfortable and appropriate for all concerned, comfortable and appropriate. Now, if that slips my mind when I create the container, or if I sit down and I just work with somebody and don't create the container at all, I don't flip out. I believe my intentions have created this energy matrix that will carry. So
there's an imprint that just has that you kind of groove in the ground.
So I think you doing it a couple of days would be significantly different than pulling cards for months without setting the intention.
Yep.
You know, at some point, I think it does wear off.
Yeah.
At some point, energy balance wears off, you know. So, I mean, it's interesting. It's, I guess, a matter of deciding what's important to you, what really translates into the intentions you want to set. And how you want to walk around and live your life, you know? And I mean, nobody is going to convince me otherwise, but balanced energy is resilient energy, and resilient energy is less reactive, period. That's just the way that it is. So I don't know. So I guess really what we're kind of saying is you can't really fall off the wagon, only if you just never go back to it.
Okay. So yeah, at what point have you truly fallen off the wagon? That's a good question. Yeah, to leave it behind and never go back.
When you start going around saying, screw all these spiritual people, they're kooks. And you know, I would think that's
that person that we know about, who used to be a friend of someone else that we know.
Oh yeah.
What about okay, slow down. What about those people? We're in groups. There are people in groups that we know who really have important spiritual messages, who are really, I mean, I can't tell you how many teachers there are hiding in the realm of the student. Like every day I find it, every day I hear it, every day I see it. And when you listen to them speak, they are struggling, they are fearful. And they are, when I get the opportunity to do session work with them, I realize that they're not practicing what they teach. Because they get so focused on putting together whatever they're putting together.
Right. The business
the technology of it, the business end of it, that their practice falls by the wayside. We'll just say that.
Well, isn't that the Abraham Hicks example of going upstream rather than downstream?
I guess I don't listen to Abraham Hicks. You know that already.
Right. But okay. So
but yes.
Right. They're struggling because they're trying to push upstream.
Push against the current.
Right. Yeah. Right. So if they would, you know, I was working with a client this morning who is under a lot of pressure, has like 4 projects. And the guidance for her was, and I'm going to use this moment to plug. I'm doing John Mothershead's Angel Party.
I saw
Go to
that.
johnmothershead.com, and the focus is grace, and it's going to be really great. So go over to johnmothershead.com and sign up.
That looks amazing, Angie.
Yeah, it's going to be really good. Anyway, for her, the actual homework was every day during this work, every hour or every 2 hours, take 2 or 3 or 5 minutes to sit and connect to the energy of joy. Why? So that you don't forget joy. People who get really big and powerful often get disagreeable and greedy. Why? Because they've lost their connection to joy. So no matter what you're doing, if you take that, so are there ways to apply what you know and what you've learned and back to the people, you know, that they get it all done, or they, you know, they can't figure out what to do about a website, and this person's telling them this and that person's telling them that. They're afraid they're going to break it. And they don't know how to, you know, they don't know how to create the copy, but on top of it, they don't want to pay anybody to help them.
Yeah.
Which
I hear that all the time.
Yeah, that's just a downward spiral right there.
Yeah, and it is. And so even though they have something amazing to put out into the world, they are struggling, like they're beating their heads against a wall. And I think that if they would develop some kind of joy, balance, ritual,
Gratitude,
dude, right?
Amen.
It would, what do you think? I mean, I think it would.
Yeah, I think that
It would
goes.
make it so much easier for them.
Again, it's downstream. And at some point, you know, just hypothetically, they would meet someone that says, oh, I know how to do that. Here, let me help you. Right.
Very well happen.
There it is. It's done for free, and it's with a friend, and it's a collaboration, and it's a, you know, a joyous thing. That even happened to me. I was in a spiritual group a number of months ago and met a woman in the group. Actually, no, it was a coaching group, and I met this other woman in the group who was just all frustrated and flustered about her website. And we got to talking, and I realized that she was deeply spiritual, had a number of books written and so on in the spiritual subjects. And what had happened is we were just kind of chatting about a few things, and I said, you know what, that would take me 5 minutes. Let me just hop in there and take care of it. And we did. And she was A, immediately grateful, and B, unstuck. So that kind of thing can happen when people are struggling.
Sure can. Sure can.
Yeah, why fight the current? Just go with it. And whatever happens, happens.
So, and I wonder if, you know, because you stuck, right? Stuck, frustrated, irritated, annoyed, all those things. By maintaining some kind of energetic hygiene, I believe that you create an immunity to those things. Stuck, irritated, you know.
Why didn't you tell me that like 8 weeks ago, Angie?
Well, because you're not manifesting it. I mean, that's manifesting, kind of manifesting, right? Because rituals and that sort of thing, I don't think we need to put pressure on ourselves to do them, but they do keep us in a certain vibration.
Yeah,
and if we don't do them, we're going to be in a lower vibration. Well, then what are we going to attract when we're in a lower vibration? We're going to attract struggle and fear and, you know, all those things. But if we are in a higher vibration, we're going to attract peace and joy and ease and flow. I mean, to me, it's not rocket science. It's just, that's the manifesting. We'll be manifesting that, right? We're attracting what it is.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to be in so much trouble right now.
Uh-oh.
Why? Are you going to curse me out?
Oh my gosh. No. Actually, I'm going to agree with you. But I'm going to be in a lot of trouble with a lot of other people, because this is exactly what you're saying, right? Like, this is precisely what you're talking about. All those people that walk around, oh my God, it's Mercury retrograde. I'm going to be miserable. Oh my God, it's an eclipse. Life is going to be so hard. Oh my God, Mercury retrograde. I better not sign any contracts. Oh my God, it's Mercury retrograde. My technology is going to explode. And then what happens?
It explodes.
Right. I walk around and say, you people are giving too much power to Mercury. Does my technology explode? No, it does not. Right? Reclaim your power. That's exactly what you're saying. Ooh, look.
Or if it does, shift your perspective, because sometimes mine will be screwed up no matter how high my vibe is. And it's like, okay, cool. What is Mercury retrograde here to teach me? Slow down, stop, sit back and assess. Okay, cool. My tech isn't working, so let me take a minute and go connect with nature, go play with my dogs, go talk to my kids.
And how
instead of
likely is it-
fighting it, just go with it.
How likely is it that your computer is pissed off because it can't go as fast as you want it to? And
Right.
that's the problem with your tech. Got nothing
Right,
to do
exactly.
with Mercury retrograde, right?
Right.
My computer
Right.
does that a lot. Well, not a lot, but it depends on how old it is. Like this one is reasonably new. So, but the older they get, the more grumbly they are.
But it's
Right.
to me, everything in astrology, I don't give that much power away to the planets in that they control me. Do they have an influence? Yes. Are they teaching me something? Yes. But I have to stop and learn what that is and then sit with it and
Yeah,
not
That's
be
that whole
like,
thing about
"The moon is
prescriptive
full,
astrology.
so I'm gonna have a terrible day. Arr,"
Right.
Right.
Here's
right,
what's
right.
going on. Here's what's aligned. Here's how you can handle it.
Right.
And anyway, if you try to follow astrology, it is way too feng shui for me.
It's
Like-
so complicated. I can't. I'm like, oh, nope.
Yeah. So I mean, and there's things in feng shui that I love, but the rest of it, oh, it's so complicated. Like the rules and I like rules, right? But
I don't.
it's just oh no, I like rules. I couldn't do
I
taxes.
rebel against them at every
And that's
every
why
opportunity.
It's why it's a
Melanie.
good thing that you don't do income taxes.
Oh yes, no.
No.
That
And that'd
would
be
be
a
a
hard
bad
no
idea.
for me too.
That's my connection to divine truth, really. But
Although you know what, in software you have to obey the rules too. Otherwise, it doesn't
you do.
compile.
Software's all about
True.
rules.
True.
It's
There's
all about rules.
there's a
So-
layer of rules in both of what you and I do, Melanie.
and
There
it's
are
order.
a layer of rules, but we ignore them.
You don't
No,
ignore
you
the
ignore
syntax
them.
of
John doesn't
JavaScript,
ignore them.
right? You don't ignore the syntax.
I
of-
ignore them and I'm gonna do my own thing.
Right. And
Yep.
then the web page doesn't render. Well,
I wonder
it's because you
why.
didn't obey the lowest level of rules of syntax.
See, John likes rules too.
See, but there's a layer there. There's
Okay,
a layer.
let me rephrase. Just because I don't like them doesn't mean I don't always have to follow. I mean, of course I have to follow them. Of course I have to
I mean,
on it.
Okay, there are the arbitrary rules or things like the laws of physics. They prevail.
Yeah.
Right?
There's
The rules in technology, the rules in income taxes.
yeah.
Then there's the rules of religion. Not
Yeah.
so much.
Not
Right,
so
not
much.
so much.
Yep. That's
Right.
at a different
Yeah.
level. It's a
Because
different layer.
those are different. Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
right? Like the rules in income taxes, the rules in technology, the rules in coding and programming, they bring order.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
The rules in religion are meant to bring fear and control.
Under the
Two
guise
different
of
things.
order.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Two different things. So when you are loaded with divine truth, you can recognize the difference. Oh,
Mhm.
brilliant. Brilliant.
We got to write this down.
You just
We
not
do.
yeah, well, it is
Someone
recorded,
taking
so
notes?
there is that.
Where's the AI?
Need to upgrade StreamYard and we could do that. Because I think YouTube took away the
Transcripts? I think it still
transcripts.
does transcripts.
They still
Oh.
do transcripts.
I don't know. I can't. Sometimes you can find them. Sometimes they move them and you can't find stuff. Whatever. I'm not a huge fan of transcripts anyway because they have every little hem and haw and.
I agree with that. They also
But then
cover
throw it in something like Descript and AI will take all that out.
Well, if you got time and the desire to do such a thing,
It takes 3 seconds. You push a button and then they're gone.
that takes 3 seconds. You got to download it. You got to upload it. It's
Well,
not
yeah.
something that is worth my time. I don't need a damn transcript.
True. Well, that's how
There's
I
no
do it.
value. There's no
gonna
value
talk after
to it.
we'll talk after the show. I
Yeah,
have an
We'll
idea.
talk. We'll talk.
Nah, we don't. There's no need for it. There's no
Okay,
need.
fine,
for it.
John,
But
and I
anyway,
will.
we're still on the show. So anyway, see what happens. Actually, I think that to bring it to an end, because again, 45 minutes. I don't know where it goes.
This was a damn good show, let me tell you.
It was. And so what is something we each do in the interest of self-care every day? Do you have something? And it could be whatever.
And is it okay if I miss a couple days?
Of course. Yeah, of course. What is something you do in the interest of, let's just bring it a little further, energetic hygiene type of self-care?
I was going to say, is this physical self-care or spiritual self-care?
Spiritual.
What kind of a talk
show? We know you
show
brush
is
your
this?
teeth, Melanie.
I don't
really.
It's your talk show. So what I do personally, I'm not a chocolate and wine and bubble bath kind of girl. I to
Just
like
chocolate
get
and wine.
myself re-centered and grounded and just kind of clean up my energy or whatever. I make sure every night when I go to bed, okay, what is one thing I was grateful for today? Even if the kids were insane, work was crazy, the dogs were jumping everywhere, like no matter how crazy it was, okay, what was one thing? Even if it's my cup of coffee in the morning or,
right.
Something simple. I find
because
something
that's
to be
an
grateful
anchor.
for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
yeah.
for you.
It just, yeah. And that, and as much as I can, I go out into my backyard, which it's very, it's hard for me. Like when I'm in the middle of a project, I'm like, oh, I got to go and go and go until it's finished. And I have to get up, take a break, and just go out and literally just stand in the grass with my shoes off if the weather permitting, or go on my deck and just listen to the birds and just chill for a minute. And that instantly I can do it for 5 minutes and it instantly will just make me feel
everything
so much
better.
And then whatever you go back in to do will now take you an hour where it would have taken you
3 hours.
Or 3, right? So that 5 minutes bought you another hour or 2, which is, I mean, it's really a very small investment for a big payoff, right? You get it. It's a pretty big return on investment. What about you, John?
So I have an energy balancing routine that I do. Donna Eden was the first person I learned energy medicine. She calls it energy medicine. Bought her books and courses and so on. And I've been doing the same kind of series of balancing exercises for many years. And so that's the one thing that, like I mentioned, I kind of fell off the wagon, but have been reminded, oh yeah, that's what I need to do. That right there is number one. And then number 2, sitting quietly for 10 minutes before I go to bed. Sometimes meditation and sometimes just resting.
I don't remember who said it, but I remember hearing someone say, if you could just learn to sit quietly for 10 minutes every day, it could make a world of difference. And it was, people, I can't meditate. I can't. No, I think it was one of those Good Morning America report. I don't know. That's not what they call them. One of their daily shows. One of their guys, like not Jake Tapper, Dan something, I think, wrote a book about meditation and how it changed his life. And I think it was him that said, just sit
and rest.
And I can't do that. My mind races. If your mind races, it races, right? Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Move on, right? Like that 10 minutes, if you do that, that's everybody. I mean, that's amazing. For me, it's and I'm left-handed, but it's my right hand, and it's on my heart, and I channel what I call beneficial energy.
Nice.
So it is the energy of whatever it is that I need for today. Sometimes it's joy, sometimes it's balancing. Sometimes, if I can feel an attitude problem coming on, I usually use joy to offset that. So, that's because anybody can channel any energy. You don't need to be attuned to it. You just need to intend it. And there it is, right there. And the best place to send it is to your heart. Because from your heart, it will
expand.
It will spread. It will move through all the chakras and move to all the reciprocals on your body, the joints, the minor chakras, then the shoulders and the hips and the knees. That's just, apparently at this moment I needed calm. So if I don't stop, I will.
I'm feeling it too, actually.
Yeah, right?
I'm feeling it too.
Yeah. So if I don't stop in a minute, I'll just stop talking and then you guys will have to end the show.
I think she's gone.
Yeah, I've done that to myself with the crystal machines when I had my space and I put together a machine and then all of a sudden we're all just looking at each other. And then I got lost going home. 2 turns. Pull out of the parking lot, go right, take another right. That's it. Drive all the way until I get home. That is it. Got lost. It's what happens when you play in the energy too much. Or just enough. I don't know.
Just enough.
Anyhow, all right. Well, this was a great episode. Next week, we're going to talk about other things.
Wow, they're the plan for you.
And honestly, if you're listening, drop a comment and let us know if there's something you'd like to hear us talk about. And that was the other thing that I was talking about. Somebody I heard talking today, and he said, we're not having enough conversations. And so I think what we're doing is really important here. And we're just having conversations about things, giving people things to think about. Whether they see it the way that we do or they don't, it doesn't matter. It's that they're thinking about it and what it means for them. So we really appreciate you listening and taking the time to sit with us and listen to us goof off for a little while. Less than an hour, we always try for. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button because we'd really like to get that number up a little bit, before the end of the second quarter. So, John, thank you. Melanie, thank you.
Thank you to both of you.
Thank you.
And we will see you all next week.